In 1969, a housekeeper at Graceland looked out the window and saw Elvis dancing alone in the rain. She watched him, crying, as he moved through the garden at midnight. When he came inside soaking wet, she asked why. Elvis's answer broke her heart. "I missed my mama. She always danced in the rain." This is the story of grief, memory, and the dances we do alone. It was August 14th, 1969, exactly 11 years after Gladys Presley had died. Elvis always struggled with this day. The anniversary of losing his mother never got easier, no matter how much time passed. That evening, Elvis had been quiet at dinner, distant. His people knew to give him space on August 14th. After everyone went to bed, Elvis stayed up sitting in the living room, lost in memories. Around midnight, it started to rain. Not a gentle rain, but a summer storm. Heavy, warm, drenching. Elvis stood up and walked to the back door. Something about the rain called to him. Nancy Wilson had worked as a housekeeper at Graceland for 3 years. She lived in the staff quarters and often stayed up late reading. When she heard the back door open and close, she looked out her window. What she saw stopped her breath. Elvis was standing in the middle of the garden in the pouring rain. No umbrella, no coat, just standing there, letting the rain soak through his clothes, his face turned up to the sky. Then he started to dance. Elvis moved through the rain like he was dancing with a partner Nancy couldn't see. Slow, gentle movements, the kind of dance you do when you're holding someone you love. His arms were positioned as if embracing another person, leading them through steps only he could hear. Nancy watched from her window, transfixed. This wasn't the Elvis Presley the world knew. This wasn't a performance. This was something private, something sacred, something that felt like she was witnessing a prayer. Elvis danced alone in the rain for almost 20 minutes. Sometimes he'd spin slowly. Sometimes he'd just sway. Sometimes he'd stop and stand still, face to the sky, as if listening for something. Nancy found herself crying without understanding exactly why. There was something achingly beautiful and desperately sad about watching this man, one of the most famous people in the world, dancing alone in a storm at midnight. Finally, Elvis stopped. He stood in the garden for another long moment, then walked slowly back toward the house. Nancy grabbed a towel from her bathroom and met him at the back door. "Mr. Presley," she said gently, holding out the towel, "you're soaking wet." Elvis looked at her and she saw that his face was wet with more than rain. He'd been crying. "Thank you, Nancy," he said quietly, taking the towel but not using it. Just holding it. Nancy should have left him alone, should have let him go to his room, but something about the vulnerability in his eyes made her brave. "Can I ask you something?" she said. "Why were you dancing out there, in the rain, alone?" Elvis looked at her for a long moment, deciding whether to answer. Then, perhaps because it was the middle of the night and grief makes us honest, he told her the truth. "I missed my mama," Elvis said, his voice breaking. "She died 11 years ago today. And when I was a kid, whenever it rained, she'd take me out into the yard and we'd dance together, just the two of us. She said rain was nature's music, and we should always dance when we heard it." Nancy felt tears spring to her eyes again. "We were so poor, we couldn't afford to go anywhere or do anything," Elvis continued. "But when it rained, Mama would take my hands and we'd dance in our yard like we were at the fanciest ballroom in the world. She'd hum songs and I'd step on her feet and she'd laugh and tell me I was the best dancer she'd ever seen." Elvis wiped his face. Whether wiping rain or tears, Nancy couldn't tell. "I haven't danced in the rain since she died. I couldn't. It felt like her thing, you know, our thing. But tonight, on the anniversary with the rain falling, I needed to feel close to her again, even if she's not here, even if I'm dancing alone." "You're not alone," Nancy said softly. Elvis looked at her, confused. "You're not dancing alone," Nancy repeated. "She's with you. Maybe not in a way you can see or touch, but she's there. In the memory, in the rain, in the dance itself. You're not dancing alone, Mr. Presley. She's dancing with you." Elvis stared at Nancy, and something in her words broke through the grief he'd been carrying all day, all 11 years. "You really think so?" he asked, his voice like a child's. "I know so. My mama died when I was 16, and for years I felt like I'd lost her completely. But then I realized she's in everything she taught me, every recipe I cook that was hers, Every song I hum that she used to sing. Every time I'm kind to someone because she taught me to be kind. She's not gone. She's just different. She's in me now instead of beside me." Nancy paused, then continued. "When you were out there dancing, I could see it. The way you moved so carefully, so tenderly. You were dancing with her. She was there, not as a ghost or a spirit or anything mysterious, but as memory, as love, as the part of her that's still alive in you." Elvis's face crumpled, and he started crying openly. Nancy moved closer, not touching him. You don't touch Elvis Presley without permission, but standing near, offering presence. "I'm sorry," Elvis said through his tears. "I shouldn't be falling apart in front of you." "You're not falling apart. You're grieving. There's a difference. Falling apart is breaking. Grieving is loving someone so much that their absence hurts. And that's not weakness, that's proof that what you had was real." Elvis wiped his eyes with the towel. 11 years. 11 years and I still miss her like it was yesterday. People say time heals, but it doesn't. It just makes you better at hiding the hurt. "Maybe time isn't supposed to heal it," Nancy said. "Maybe we're not supposed to stop hurting when we lose someone we love. Maybe the hurt is how we keep them close. If we stopped missing them, if we stopped feeling that pain, wouldn't that mean we'd forgotten? Wouldn't that be worse?" Elvis considered this. "So I'm supposed to carry this forever?" "You're going to carry it forever anyway. The question is whether you see it as a burden or a connection. That pain, that's your mama still being important to you. That's love that didn't die when she did." Elvis was quiet for a long moment, water still dripping from his hair and clothes. Then he said something that surprised both of them. "Would you dance with me?" Nancy blinked. "What?" "Just for a minute, in the rain. I know it's strange. I know I'm your employer, and this is weird, but I don't want to dance alone anymore. And maybe if I dance with someone real, someone here, it'll feel less like I'm grasping at ghosts." Nancy looked at this man, this famous, powerful, heartbroken man, asking for something so simple and human. How could she say no? "Okay," she said quietly. They went back out into the rain. It was still falling heavy and warm. Elvis took Nancy's hand gently, placed his other hand respectfully on her shoulder, and they danced. Not romantically, not awkwardly. Just two people moving slowly through the rain, sharing a moment of grief and connection. "My mama would have liked you," Elvis said as they swayed. "She would have said you have a kind face." "She would have loved how much you still love her," Nancy replied. They danced for just a few minutes. Then Elvis stopped, squeezed Nancy's hand in thanks, and they went back inside. Elvis never forgot that night. Nancy Wilson worked at Graceland for another 23 years, until Elvis's death and beyond. They never spoke about the rain dance again. It was something too private, too sacred to revisit casually. But every August 14th after that, Elvis would ask Nancy to make fried chicken, Gladys's recipe that Nancy had learned from old staff members. And Nancy would always add a little extra love to the cooking, knowing what day it was, knowing what it meant. After Elvis died in 1977, Nancy stayed on at Graceland, working for the estate. She was there when they opened Graceland to the public, when tourists started coming by the thousands to see where Elvis had lived. One rainy day in 1982, Nancy was working in the main house when a woman approached her. The woman was crying, holding a photo of someone who was clearly her mother. "I'm sorry," the woman said. "I shouldn't be emotional. It's just, my mother died last year, and she loved Elvis, and I brought her here, in spirit, to see this place. And the rain started, and I miss her so much." Nancy looked at this stranger, at her tears, at the photo of her mother, and saw Elvis dancing in the garden. "Come with me," Nancy said. She led the woman to the back door, opened it, and gestured to the garden where rain was falling. "When Elvis's mother died," Nancy said, "he would dance in the rain because that's what they'd done together when he was a child. He told me once that rain was their way of staying connected. So maybe your mother would want you to dance in it too." The woman looked at Nancy, surprised. "Dance in the rain? Here? At Graceland?" "Why not? Elvis did. And he wasn't dancing alone. He was dancing with memory, with love, with everything his mama taught him. You could do the same. Dance with your mother. She's not gone. She's just different now. She's in the rain. She's in the memory. She's in you. The woman stepped out into the rain, and she danced. Awkwardly at first, self-consciously, but then she closed her eyes and let herself feel it. The rain, the memory, the love that doesn't die just because someone does. Nancy watched from the doorway, crying, remembering Elvis dancing in the same garden 13 years earlier. Nancy Wilson died in 2010 at age 78. In her final interview, given to a Graceland documentary team, she told the story of Elvis dancing in the rain. "People want to know about the famous Elvis," Nancy said. "The performances, the movies, the legend. But I remember the human Elvis, the one who missed his mama so much he danced alone in a storm, the one who cried and admitted he felt alone, the one who understood that love doesn't end when life does." The story resonated deeply with people dealing with grief. It became a touchstone for discussions about how we maintain connections with people we've lost. "Elvis dancing in the rain with his mother's memory gave me permission to honor my own grief," wrote one person in a viral essay. "We're taught to move on, to heal, to get over loss. But Elvis Presley, the king, couldn't get over losing his mother. And that's okay. That's human. That's love." Grief counselors began sharing the story in therapy sessions. "The rain dance is a beautiful metaphor," said Dr. Sarah Mitchell. "Elvis wasn't trying to bring his mother back. He was finding a way to stay connected to her. That's healthy grief. That's honoring loss without being destroyed by it." The August 14th rain dance became something of a ritual for Elvis fans. Every year on the anniversary of Gladys's death, if it rains, some fans go to Graceland and dance in the rain outside the gates. They don't do it for Elvis. They do it for their own lost loved ones. They dance with memory. They dance with love that survived death. Graceland has acknowledged this tradition. There's now a small plaque near the garden that reads, "In memory of Gladys Love. Presley and all the mothers we've loved and lost. When it rains, dance. They're dancing with you." The story also changed how people think about public grief. We expect celebrities to grieve privately, to hide their pain, to be strong, noted cultural critic Dr. James Chen. But Elvis dancing alone in the rain at midnight, that's not strength. That's vulnerability. And somehow, knowing that even Elvis Presley broke down on anniversaries makes it okay for the rest of us to break down too. Nancy's words, "She's dancing with you," became a comfort phrase in grief circles. People would say it to friends mourning loved ones. They're still with you. They're dancing with you. Today, if you visit Graceland on a rainy day, staff members will sometimes tell you about Elvis dancing in the garden. They'll point to the spot where he stood, where he swayed, where he connected with his mother across the barrier of death. And sometimes, if the rain is right and the moment feels sacred, people will step out into that garden and dance. Not because they're Elvis fans, because they're humans who've lost someone, and Elvis's story gave them permission to express that loss through movement, through rain, through the simple act of dancing with memory. Gladys Presley died on August 14, 1958. For 11 years, Elvis carried that loss alone, hiding his grief from the world. Then, one midnight in 1969, he danced with her again, not literally, but in the way that matters, in memory, in love, in the rain they'd always shared. Nancy saw him that night, saw his grief, saw his love, saw the dance that kept a mother and son connected across death's divide. And in seeing, she understood something profound. The people we love never fully leave us. They're in the rain, they're in the memories. They're in the dances we do alone, but not alone. Elvis danced with Gladys that night, and every person who's ever loved and lost can understand why. Can understand the need to move through rain, to feel connection, to refuse to let death have the final word. We dance in the rain for those we've lost, not to bring them back, but to remember they're still with us, still loving us, still dancing with us. Elvis knew that. Nancy understood it. And now, decades later, we do too. The rain falls, the memory lives, the dance continues. If this story of grief, memory, and dancing with those we've lost moved you, subscribe and share it. Who would you dance in the rain for? Let us know in the comments. Hit that notification bell for more true stories about love that survives death.